Hi everybody, hope you're doing great today. In this video I'm going to talk about the plants I just recently planted in my garden. Fortunately I didn't have time this year to do my own seed start. Normally what I'll do is I'll start seed indoors in the February-March time frame, but depending on the vegetable, you need enough time to seed them indoors in little planters, little potters, whatever you have, to get them to grow big enough. And then once they're ready, you put them outdoors once the weather is appropriate for that. So this year I was a little busy, had some other things going on, so instead what I ended up doing is buying my plants from a local nursery over here. They do a great job, they grow great plants. They have pretty high quality fruits and vegetable plants that you can buy. So I did that. I'm going to show you here. They've already been put in ground. I'll give you some tips and tricks on what I do when I put my plants in and what you should be doing as well too. So these are the primary beds I use. I've got 3 beds over here. This one back bed here is a little more messy. I've got some garlic that kind of went out of control. I still need to maintain that. In this one bed I only put 3 plants in. I've got 2 tomato plants and 1 pepper plant in the back there. Got some clover, weed growth over here. I usually leave some, but once it kind of grows, gets out of hand, then I will cut it back. And it's just good to have something else growing in the soil as well too. Just it helps add life and nutrients into the garden. And this other bed over here, I've got 2 tomatoes. Started putting some cages on the tomato plants. I'm going to be putting cages pretty much on everything just to give the plant support. Similar here with this bed, I've also got 2 tomatoes and some pepper plants. And there's a pepper plant here and a pepper plant back there as well too. And I'm trying an eggplant here, that one small little plant over there in between a tomato and a pepper. We'll see how that works. Do have a little more space in this bed, so I might pick up something else to pop in there. I'll have to figure out what exactly I want to put in there. So when it comes to new plants like these, what you do want to do is you need to make sure the temperature outdoors is proper. Basically, you don't want temperatures that go into the overnight that are freezing temperatures that are going to kill your plants. Over here in my area in southwest Ohio, that usually is around the time of Mother's Day. So that's our time frame when we consider, okay, it's safe to put it in ground. In early May, we did have some freezing temperatures. So if I would have put something out early May, that would have caused problems. It could have killed my plants if I didn't do something to protect them. So with these plants, when you buy them from the store or you seed them on your own in a pot indoors, and then when you're getting ready to transfer them outdoors, you need to harden them off. These, since I bought from a local nursery, they were already hardened off by the nursery. They were growing in semi-outdoor conditions, basically like a covered, but they were exposed to the weather. And then once I transplanted them in, so once you transplant them in, you need to pour some water on the surrounding soil right away just to give them a good drink. And then, especially since they're new and they're root bound, so basically their roots kind of clump together, and they're basically, because they're stuck in a pot, in a small little pot, they're clumped together. So they don't have access to everything in the soil over there. So it's always good to water them right away and make sure you're watering them on a regular basis while they're small. You might need to water them more frequently based on what's the recommendation for them. Just because they're small, their roots haven't expanded yet, they don't have many leaves. As they get bigger and they get more leaves, that gives them better protection from the sun, from full sun, versus now they have few leaves, so they can get sunburned at times. But once these tomatoes, especially 3-4 feet, they got a lot of leaves, a lot of stems and branches going around there, so it's less likely for them to suffer from heat damage. But at the small stage, it's more likely, so you need to pay attention, water more frequently when needed, and just keep an eye on them to make sure that they're settling in properly. After about 2 to 3 weeks, when the roots have a chance to kind of open up, they've been getting consistent water, then you can kind of start shifting towards watering based on the recommended schedule for your particular plants. Now In these beds, I do use drip irrigation, and that's what those black pipes are over there for, and it just helps to deliver water close to the plants. It's not spraying water on top of the leaves, which can also cause problems with mold and mildew and whatnot. So by watering on the soil there, it's just getting directly to the root. It's not touching the leaves itself. So once I did plant these, I did have a couple of nice days of rain, nothing too heavy, but it made sure to soak the beds, and so that was perfect for these plants. And some of the things you want to do when you're planting is you can add beneficial fungi. So I use something like this here, extreme gardening. Basically it's a mycorrhizal inoculant, and for this one you need to put it directly on the roots. This time I forgot to do it. I got the plants, and when I had a chance to put it out in the garden, I forgot to bring this out. So you need to put it in the roots. There's some I've used in the past, some beneficial fungi additives that you can actually add to water and then pour it in and around the roots, and it helps benefit. So this is something you should use if your soil is already in a good shape and already healthy condition, and you want to just add a little extra oomph to it. If your soil quality is poor, I would worry less about adding something like this and focus more on building up the quality of your soil through the use of compost, bokashi compost, well-aged manure. You need to boost the fertility of your soil first. Once you get to that point, then once your garden's healthy, then look at something like this. I've seen garden beds that have been, they're stripped yearly, they're tilled yearly, and they become more clay-like, they're less soil-like, less dirt-like. I always go back to the example of a forest. If you look at a forest, where everything grows wild, there's so many layers being built up there. You get layers of leaves, you get layers of sticks, animal droppings. They all layer on top of each other, and so you create these great layers and the soil is just, certain points where it hasn't been exposed to sun or anything like that. You can just stick your hand in there and get in a couple of inches, and the soil so loose, it's not compact. When you get that very compact soil, very hard, very clay-like, then the roots for your plants have a hard time growing, and then you get stunted plant growth. It's more susceptible to pests and whatnot, whereas if you've got very healthy plants, then it's less likely to be impacted by pests. So I will add things over time too. As the plants are growing, I will add things like beneficial bacteria. There are different blends. You can get those EM blends, the essential microorganisms. Basically it's a mixture you pour into molasses, pour with some water, and then you can add it on top of your plants directly to the leaves. You can add it to the soil as well too. It just boosts the overall fertility and health of the soil. I use fertilizer-wise, I don't use much fertilizer because I use bokashi compost. It provides a healthy and nutrient base that's mixed right into the soil, and that helps plants grow pretty strongly. So I will add things like I buy fish hydrosolate, mix that in with water, pour that around, and what that does is that really feeds the microorganisms in and around the plants, and those microorganisms basically boost the fertility. Those microorganisms work with the plant roots. They absorb nutrients from the soil and then pass it on to the plants, and plants pass nutrients, and so it becomes a symbiotic relationship in there. You need to work on boosting all of that. That's how you boost the health of your garden. Compost, no tilling, encouraging all the microorganisms, encouraging the organisms like worms, other insects and stuff like that there, the other beneficial insects that will help boost your garden. So that's the steps that I use. That's the steps that I take to grow great produce. Let me know in the comments below. What do you use? Do you use any of the similar techniques that I use? What different techniques have you used that you found successful? Please share those in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.